again, we don't know that. Of course, following the case to see what's up, see what's going on with this case. And his gun was missing. We heard a lot about walking times during different time periods. Some of those were when he was back at his apartment, not on 316. So Miles' statement. Now we do know that he lied in his statement. He said he wasn't in the woods. He never got out of his car. Well, we know that that's a lie. But there are some truths that the other evidence, other testimony that you heard supports. Well, he told you about his career path. ROTC, he was in the military cop. He had worked at Forsyth, and then he went to Dunwoody. He wanted to be on SWAT. So you heard all that. He told you about watching Zenobia because she had cheated on him. And Zenobia did chase him. She said that on the stand. She said, yeah, I saw him, I followed him, I blocked him in. And he said, I did not kill him. I'm glad they actually pointed this out to you. They said versus she said. Obviously, he talked with her. He did say she, they, and changed it. But that just proves that he had a conversation with her. If you're going to kidnap somebody, you're not going to have a conversation with them. You're going to grab them and throw them in the trunk or the car. He had a conversation with her. And of course, they knew each other. On at least 2 prior occasions that witnesses told you about today, or over the last 2 weeks in court. And he was very nervous. Of course he was nervous. Everything was coming down at that time. He was very nervous. They were right up on him with his back against the wall. The only things we know for certain, she was in the car, truck, I don't know why we always default to car, with Miles. We do know that Miles left her in the woods. We don't know if she was unconscious at that time or if she was dead. We don't know that he did anything to her to cause that. We do know that Miles went back to search for his gun. Looking at that metal store place, maybe trying to get a metal detector. That was one of his searches, to go back and try to find the gun. Yes, he was trying to keep up with the case. He had concealed the death of a person. He had left that person in the woods. Of course he was going to keep up with it. And we definitely know that Miles is a cheater and was tracking Zenobia. And we do know that Zenobia was jealous. And we know that Susanna was at least at a minimum experimenting with drugs outside of pot. I think it was established that pot was probably something that they usually did. And again, typical teenager. What we don't have is the diary. That might have provided a lot of enlightenment about what was going on during that period of time in her life. We know it was asked for, but it was not turned over for whatever reason. Most telling is, why did we not actually see the video from that night? The girls were making a TikTok or something. We saw a screenshot. Would it be that they were doing something else other than pot in the video?
Judge, I'm going to object to facts not evidence.
Your Honor, I think I can argue why they would not have presented the video.
Your Honor, all the witnesses were on the stand. Ms. Drake wanted to ask those questions of the witnesses. She could have done that. She is now arguing things that they failed to ask on the stand, and it's impermissible.
I agree with you. I'm going to strike
Why don't we have that video? What would that video have shown about their condition and what they were doing? Why don't we have that video? So because the state has zero evidence of malice murder or kidnapping, they have what's called 404 evidence. He is not on trial for the 404 evidence. So we have the video that Miles stole. Disgusting. You can hate him just for that. But that doesn't mean rape. The narrative on the nails about him being black. Men don't notice nails. Women notice nails. It's very important to us. If we break a nail, if they're chipped, we notice that. Men don't notice that. Miss Bates lied on the stand according to the 911 call. Oh, he had a gun. He was kicking in the door. When asked, at a minute and 30 seconds in, does he have a weapon? No. Is what she told the 911 operator. Did you see a gun in the video? You saw him knock. Did you see a gun? No. Did you see him kicking the door? Trying to bust down the door? There would have been evidence left on that door. A dent, something? No. There was a brief talk about, and I don't know the exact date, so I'm not even going to say that prior someone had busted in. But there's no phone records. We have all of these phone records about where Miles Bryant was. Even if they didn't have enough for a search warrant then, surely on this case they could have gotten a search warrant. No phone records to show that he was tied to that at all. She had him labeled as a stalker in her phone. That could have been changed any time. We all know you can change your profile picture day to day to day. Why not show us the text messages? We saw, what, 3 pages of where he's like, you know, you want to hook up or whatever? Why is it whenever he talks about, I think it was moonshine or some sort of alcoholic beverage, LMAO? Is that what you respond to a person that's stalking you? That doesn't make any sense. We don't have the text messages. Never told him to stop and never blocked him. In fact, she wanted to lure him over to her apartment to get evidence. If you're afraid of somebody and somebody's stalking you, you block that person. You block their number. You change your number. You go take out a protective order. Never told him to stop and never blocked him. In fact, still had him on social media. Because I believe that's where she said she posted a little video about him leaving. That makes no sense. And we know that this was investigated by the Dunwoody police. Again, volumes and volumes of paperwork. We didn't hear from the Dunwoody police. And we know he was still working there. Talking to the 13-year-old. I expect the state is going to come and run this into one statement. But if you listen to that, there were different components to this. First, someone could pick you up and rape you. Conversation, conversation. Find you in the woods somewhere. Conversation, conversation. Throw you in a van and we will never find you again. Further down in the conversation. And think about that. As an adult, when you're fussing at a child from running away, that would be exactly what you would say. Somebody could pick you up and rape you and dump you somewhere and we'd never find you again. What does that show? What do any of these show? So this is what the court instructed you on before that evidence came in. You can't infer from this evidence that he is of a character that would commit such crimes. They're just being offered to show lack of mistake, intent, motive. But what does that show? Does it show kidnapping? Does it show murder? Does it show intent to rape? No. It just makes Miles look bad, which is all that they can depend upon since they have no evidence of malice murder and no evidence of kidnapping. Reasonable theories, which were actually brought up during his interview. Did she overdose? We possibly could have had evidence from that, and I'm going to go into that in just a little bit, but we don't. Took off the puke-drenched clothes before putting her in the car. Zenobia confronted him, thought he was with a girl. Jealous, busted out his mirror. His other girlfriend corroborated that statement that he said during the interview, that he did have a busted mirror about that same time. What happened between 10:07 and 10:21? What happened between 10:21 and 10:29? We don't know. When you're back in the jury room, I'm sure that you can come up with a reasonable theory. Basically, the state has come up with a reasonable theory. The bottom line, the state's case is a theory of what could have happened. And all their evidence is tailored to that. Like when Biggers was testifying, oh, you could see directly into her house. How long had they lived there? How long had Miles lived there? Would there have been a time where he would have had that same view? Back when this happened, we know that all the trees had their leaves on it. Could you have seen during that time? We don't know. They themselves gave reasonable theories during that interview based upon the evidence that they had. Him being in the woods and his gun being found there. Did she overdose? Did Zenobia catch all and something happened? Were you having a relationship with her and Zenobia came up? Whatever. But if there is another theory, it doesn't have to be more probable than something else, but any reasonable theory means you must find him not guilty. We don't know if she overdosed, and we could have. It was never treated as a possible overdose because of the body being in the woods and not having clothes. However, we could have known what she was on that night. No bone marrow testing.
No, I'm going to object at this point. Dr. Terry was on the stand. Ms. Drake could have asked her all these questions. This is facts, not an evidence that Drake knows it.
And I'm gonna strike that.
Your Honor, they did recover hair.
I understand, and Dr. Terry was here, and her assistant was here, and you could have asked about those tests. So I'm not going to allow you.
We don't have any results from any testing.
Ms. Drake, you could have asked if tests were done, and you didn't. So I don't want to stop you in your closing again, but you have to rely on the evidence in this case.
They had hair. No cause of death. And it is completely speculation at this point. Unfortunately, we don't know how this young lady died. To authorize a conviction on circumstantial evidence, the proved facts must not only be consistent with the theory of guilt, but also exclude every other reasonable theory. Are there other reasonable theories? Absolutely. After giving consideration to all of the facts and circumstances, the Life 360 compared to the walking video, the breaks in time. If your minds are wavering, unsettled, or unsatisfied, then that is a doubt of the law. This is what this case is. Grave suspicion. And the court is going to instruct you that facts and circumstances that merely place on the defendant a grave suspicion of the crime, or that raises a speculation or conjecture of the defendant's guilt, are not sufficient to authorize a conviction. This case was very, very emotional for everyone involved. But the judge is going to instruct you that you cannot consider sympathy. My heart broke when Jasmine and the mother were on the stand. I have daughters. Some of you may have daughters. That is the worst nightmare. The fact that he left her out there is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life. No matter what happened to her. That they went through 7 months of searching for her. That Detective Carter, she was on the stand for a long time. She worked hard on this case. Biggers worked hard on this case. All the police man hours. But all we have is grave suspicion. It's okay not to like Miles. Think he's disgusting. Thinks he's a terrible police officer, whatever. It's okay. And it's okay to feel sick when you realize that there are other reasonable theories and that you have to return a verdict of not guilty. Now, during jury selection, we always ask questions about leader versus follower, analytical, work in HR, supervise people. And oftentimes jurors have always asked afterwards, I was wondering why y'all ask those types of questions. It's because, especially in a case like this, where the emotions are so high, we need people who can make tough decisions. Decisions that you may hate to make. The truth of this case is we just don't know. We just don't know. Now, the state, sometimes, it's been a long time since I've had a case with these prosecutors, oftentimes they'll get up and say, it's not your job to seek doubt. I disagree. How do you know if there is doubt if you don't go through it all and seek doubt? Maybe, could haves, grave suspicion is not beyond a reasonable doubt. I urge you to listen to the law as the court gives you. Go back in the jury room and think about this case. It is very important, not only to the state, not only to Susanna's family, and regardless of what you think of him, it's very important to that young man right there. Is there another reasonable theory other than what the state has presented? Is there any evidence of malice in murder, an intent to kill? Is there any evidence of intent to kidnap or kidnapping or of rape? There is not. And based upon the law and the facts of this case, the law compels you and orders you, pursuant to your oath, to enter a verdict of not guilty, except for count 5. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do expect the state's closing to go at least an hour and a half. Would y'all like to take a 10-minute break? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and then the state can close.
Thank you.